In this video, I beat the entirety of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild how Nintendo intended. From every shrine to every boss and every side quest, killing every Talos, Hinox and Molduga, and of course discovering Nintendo's secrets and minigames. And guess what? Before this, I had never even played a Zelda game before. This is just a series on my channel and I wanted to experience something completely different. I feel like a massive noob because I never knew how popular Zelda was and how incredible this specific game is. And I look forward to visiting the other Zelda games in the future. But for me, something distinct stuck out underneath the surface. Yes, the gameplay is fun, the puzzles are satisfying, and the story is beautiful. But for me, it's all about how the world flows together as a visual moving art piece. It's truly astounding how flawlessly this game was executed. I think the name itself encapsulates this. Breath of the Wild. It's like the trees of the world are creating a cacophony of air and wind that touches all lands and embraces all darkness. This world is alive and beautiful. This game really gives you a ridiculous amount of freedom. If you see something, you can visit it. But how did Nintendo intend for the game to be played? Well, first, the guide states there is no right or wrong way to play Breath of the Wild. But this book does give an all-encompassing guide with a very sort of weird but clear path to beat the game. So there is no right or wrong way, but this is Nintendo's path to beating Breath of the Wild. Although I had no idea what was going on, immediately the game looked beautiful to me. Nintendo wants us to grab this armor, collect some resources, and talk to the old man. It notes to always be mindful for Korok seeds and loot whenever traveling. The guide really emphasizes practicing dodging and parrying early in the game on these very easy enemies. And I tell you what, this was fantastic advice. By the end of my adventure, I really had the timing down, and the game was incredibly satisfying as a result, if not too easy at times. Weirdly, because I don't think it's true, the book continually states this is not an easy game. So early on, when there's more than one enemy, we should try and sneak to kill, and just in general think more about strategy. After activating the first tower and getting our first glimpse of the shrouded calamity ganon, the guide wants us to ping the 4 shrines in the region. We speak again to the old man, who certainly gauged my interest, especially as he says he will reward us with a paraglider. Instead of charging full steam ahead, Nintendo's path takes us on a bit of an adventure. I activate the shrine first, and then did a quick detour to catch some bass in the pond, and then visited the nearby forest of spirits to catch some raw meat. I also took this time to cook up some food. The first shrine taught me how to use our magnesis rune, and for every single shrine the guide details exactly how Nintendo intended it to be defeated, which certainly saved me some time. And to be honest, I'm not that interested in puzzles in general, so I enjoyed being able to speed through these. This world is very big and very detailed. It's sort of extraordinary to a degree, and so we aren't just suggested to travel to the next shrine. Instead, using our new power, I solved some environmental puzzles. I grabbed these 2 chests from a large pond and also a plank, carrying it over to this bog, allowing me to reach 2 more chests. Also, there's another Korok seed we can take using magnesis. After the second shrine, which taught me how to use the bomb rune, the guide suggests attacking this outpost, sneaking up to it and shooting the lamp down to infuse some explosive barrels to get another chest. Then to run over to this location to the west of the Temple of Time and to retrieve some spicy peppers that grow here. Then to turn around and head towards this cabin in the woods where it suggests talking to the old man, reading his notes where he's forgotten a recipe to keep himself warm. Make this said recipe, which is conveniently bass, raw meat and spicy peppers, and thus he rewards us with his warm doublet, since he won't need it anymore. The guide also wants us to collect some of these special mushrooms and to cook them all together to get a stamina-inducing meal. It's crazy to me that you could easily progress in this world without doing any of this, beating the game in a completely different way. Now I'm told to cut down this tree, to cross the abyss, and climb this tall cliff, replenishing my energy with my nutritious mushroom skewer. At this point, the guide was making my trip warm and cozy, invitingly enjoyable. Up here, I completed the 3rd shrine, whilst learning the rune stasis, which is probably my favorite ability in the game. Nintendo says the path to the next shrine is straightforward and uneventful, but for me it was rather intense. The combat is simple, but it really feels epic in this game. At the final shrine, I learned Chronosis. Instead of traveling straight to the Temple of Time, the guide really wants us to explore. This led me into the Forest of Spirits again, where I came across 3 stones that became an environmental boss. I thought this was really cool. Without the guide, I probably wouldn't have known about this for a long time. Nintendo suggests throwing bombs at the Talus's arms to break them and then to climb on its back to smash its weak spot. Again, this was so cool. This game is truly full of wonder and beauty. I then finally visited the Temple of Time, prayed at my first goddess statue. I chose a stamina vessel, by the way, because the guide states this is highly beneficial. And then I found out the identity of the old man, who just so happens to be the old king of Hyrule. Breath of the Wild ends up being a pretty good starting point for a new player like me. Link has no memories of the past and the land is currently in turmoil. The past submerged under Calamity Ganon for the time being. The story isn't particularly deep or thought-provoking, but it is a very beautiful, sweet tale. Some of the voice acting and dialogue did make me feel a little emotional at times. Now with the paraglider, I can leave this first section and explore. We can now go anywhere we want in the whole world, but the guide suggests we go to the Dueling Peaks Tower region. I admired the view, completed a shrine, admired the view again, played around a little, and then unlocked the tower, and then completed some more shrines. The guide heavily emphasizes this order. When entering a new region, find a tower first, then do every shrine in the region, and then do the quests and the side quests. This ended up making my character extremely powerful from all the bonuses you get from the shrines. But for the first new region, the book is a little different. It wants us to visit the Dueling Peaks stable, talk to these treasure hunters, experience some more scenic views of the natural land in order to sneak onto the back of a horse and board it at this stable. I called mine Murphy after my childhood dog. I then completed perhaps my most complicated shrine on the way as I traveled to the treasure location the guys were gossiping about, from which I gathered some very favorable early game loot for myself and my character. I then wrangled a horse in a bet to win some 50 rupees and talked to the guys who were still figuring out where the treasure might be, not believing I was already holding it. Again, at this time in the game, we could go anywhere, but Nintendo wants us to run into Hetsu. I had to do so after my first Blood Moon activated. I helped him retrieve his maracas from some bandits, and he does a magically cute dance for us, giving us more slots for weapons when we give him Korok Seeds. It's sort of insane to me that if you don't travel to Kakariko village this way, that you may not ever run into this guy, and thus never gain his favor and his essential benefits. This game is awesome in this way. There are 2 villages in Breath of the Wild that are incredibly homely to me, Kakariko village and Hateno village. Whilst the other main cities are more novel and fun, these 2 cities genuinely feel like a place I would love to live. Inside of Kakariko village, we talk to Impa, who recounts all that has happened to this world to our forgetful mind. After this, hilariously, Nintendo wants us to help Kato and his cuckoos that have gone missing, making us climb on buildings and sneak into a private plum garden. Now we're off to Hateno, and on the way I ran into my first encounter with a member from the Yiga clan. Again, the guide suggests practicing parrying and dodging, and I found this insanely satisfying. In this game, simply trotting along with my horse in the rain was also just an experience. Upon venturing into this new region, I visited the tower first and then completed every shrine using Nintendo's intended way, like for example, putting this puzzle upside down. This also led me early on into buying some stealth gear at the Kakariko store, so I could more easily wrangle a wild buck, which is needed to open the shrine that Kaz has puzzled to us in a song. I then completed all of the Kakariko side quests, which included being flirted with by Roller, who sells arrows, and then cooking up a bunch of meals for Coco. Cooking in this game is actually a weirdly enjoyable and satisfying addition. I then played tag with Kotla, I'm probably butchering these names by the way, and ventured off in beauty past Hateno to meet up with Pura. I lit up the tech lab and obtained a camera rune, allowing me to finally complete the last quest in the region with the painter. He guides us to a great fairy fountain where he gets too tired to make it all the way. I collected some fairies and ingratiated myself with the giant fairy herself. This was very whimsical, just as I expected this far into the game. It was also a little creepy. I took a photo for the artist. I collected some fireflies for Leslie to cheer her up, and now I was off to do some more shrines. Coming across a social location on the way, randomly, where a man awaits his true love at a special pond, though I fear he's a bit of an idiot. There are a lot of shrines, and the guide heavily suggests visiting them all to get more hearts and more stamina vessels, whilst also allowing for quicker traveling around the world as you can fast travel to shrines visited. There are a total of 120 in the game, and I really enjoy how a lot of them have a unique twist, or an enjoyable journey with vistas, or some weird satisfying puzzle to unwind. We even cure a bloody dragon from Ganon's malignancy, which was pretty damn awesome. With this region of the world complete, Nintendo suggests experiencing our first memory in this specific location here. And as for experiencing the memories as a first time player, I thoroughly enjoyed these cutscenes. But for now, Nintendo tells us to simply go back to Impa to be rewarded the Champion's Tunic, a very useful armor piece which reveals enemy health points. It also looks pretty cool. I then completed every side quest in Hateno, helping out the village except for Neb's quest, which Nintendo states is a long-term quest that we should gradually complete. It requires finding rare items amongst the world and giving them to this child who will repay us well, weirdly enough. At this stage, I truly felt ingratiated into this world. A kind hero amongst ordinary people, helping where I can, being rewarded in return. A very happy journey so far, if not simple and romantically inclined at times, which I thought was sort of surprising. But now it was time to travel far and wide as intended. I also just want to say that in the storm, I ran straight past an ominously looking Stolnox without even realizing. I only noticed this when I went back to edit. This stage of the game brings us so much freedom. We need to defeat the 4 divine beasts in 4 regions, and there is no order to any of this. Oh, and also there are 6 other regions we haven't even visited yet. But I'm playing how Nintendo intended, so I'm still doing the side quests in Hateno, which take me all the way to the Akala Ancient Tech Lab in the northeastern section of the world. Then to Kaz on the peak of a rock spire to obtain a sunken treasure, and then back to the village for an all-encompassing quest and my favorite side quest in the entire game. If we talk to Bolson as he and his men work on a house, we can offer to buy the home from him for the low price of 3,000 rupee and 30 bundles of wood. Of course, I would love to live in Hateno. So, the guide suggests farming bundles of wood near the old man's cabin on the Great Plateau, since we haven't traveled to Rito Stable as of yet. It wants us to use bombs to collect the wood in order to save our own resources. In order to get the 3,000 rupee, the guide suggests finding and destroying taluses and selling their materials. This process took a little bit of time, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's also here that Hudson leaves us, one of the workers of Bolson's construction business, to expand their work. This activates a separate side quest, but they both, in my opinion, very much connect, and in my brain they fit as one. So I bought the house, and then from my leftover riches from the many taluses I slayed, I worked Bolson around the clock to renovate the home, making it very cozy for me to live in. Already I owned my very own home in the Zelda universe. Pretty neat. But now I need even more wood, over 100 bundles. So let the great farming commence as dragons fly above and lightning strikes. I knock an entire forest down and a rainbow announces the grind is over. I travelled all the way to Tarrey Town where Hudson has come to settle down. He's going to build this place from the ground up, and I'm going to help. Of course, being in this region and not just merely passing through, I activate the tower and complete all the shrines, collecting weapons and enjoying all the various challenges that arise in this world. Discovering new mechanics, an emu, and a Hinox for my first time. Nintendo's intended way is discovery and exploration first, then quest second. You really get acquainted with the world in this way instead of rushing through the game. But I do feel like this order is actually very uncommon amongst players. Completing all the shrines way before every main quest and side quest is probably unusual. But hey, I enjoyed the book's advice, even though it's probably not practical without the book. And boy, there really are a lot of shrines and a lot of content. Curiously, the first region we visit to recruit workers for Hudson and his dream of Tarrytown is the Elden region location, fraught with a burning heat from volcanic lava. I managed to activate its tower and complete a couple shrines before learning these lizards make excellent elixirs. But in the end, I didn't need them as I took a route away from the lava until I could sweep down on Goron City and quickly buy some Flame Guard armor. But before recruiting for Hudson, I had to complete all the shrines in the area, which I did easily enough. I don't think this is my favorite region, but it's certainly entertaining enough. After the hours it took me to complete all of this, I finally found a strong Goron with a name ending in Sun, as is required to work at Bolson's construction company. This fella's name is Grayson, and he's going to help Hudson clear the land. After selling my spirit orbs at Tarrytown's goddess statue from all the shrines I've been grinding, I was off to the Wastelands where, you guessed it, I explored for more shrines. I eventually got to the heart of the desert and met Ronson, who's exhausted searching for the love of her life. She's a gifted tailor and her name fits the Bolson construction policy, and so we send her off to Tarrytown, from which she gracefully accepts. I wanted to visit the city at this stage, but oh wait, you can't until you dress as a woman. I then also decided to find Hetsu at the riverside stable to give him all the seeds I had found on my ventures so far. When meeting back with Hudson, the quest giver who takes us all around the lands, he seemed to have taken a liking with the Garuda lady, and so have I, as she sells some very good gear for the Wasteland's weather. The Wasteland shrines were definitely interesting, and I even collected a few weapons for Neb on the way, but I had to stop at a point as you need to actually defeat the divine beast of the region to complete the rest of the shrines. Now it's off to the Tabantha region, where my personal favorite city and characters live, Rito Village, and these bird people. Everyone is different, but for me, this village is the most calming and peaceful. I love the open airiness with its tall trees. Zora Domain is definitely a close second. Here I met Faison, who's a weirdly moody, yet very chill dude, who wants to sell his own stuff and not compete with his mother's store. I sent him off to Hudson, as his name meets Bolson's construction policy, and Tarrytown needs a general store. Honestly, Nintendo is awesome for making you do this side quest early. You visit the lands, and in return, you get rewarded as Tarrytown sells cheaper goods than other cities and has everything you need in just one spot. It's also just homely and comfortable. Here in Rito, I quickly bought the cold resistance armor. I also couldn't do many of the shrines here yet until the divine beast of this region is tamed. I found out Hudson and Ronson have fallen in love and they're going to get married. We need to find a priest for them. Hudson suggests looking in Zora's domain. So I unlocked the tower, met my first fish person. I really like the different race designs and personalities in this game, and I found out this is another beautiful region, but sometimes a little hard to traverse. The people here are also not very kind to me yet. Conveniently, I met Capson in the city, a retired priest who's very bored in his life, and alas, his name meets Bolson construction policy, so I tell him, and he's off to Tarrytown, excited to wed Ronson and Hudson. This really was my favorite side quest, and like I said, I really enjoyed how it's placed so early on in the book. It's a bit weird that instead of saving the people from their worries by recapturing the divine beast, instead we helped this guy Hudson build Tarrytown and host a happy wedding for him. Of course, as my duty condemned by the guide, I completed every shrine in the Lanoru region. I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry. And it was finally here that the guide got us to face the divine beasts. I could easily choose any of them at random, but the guide suggests the divine beast Varuta first. The storytelling and visuals were pretty cool during this cutscene. Discussing our plans for the beast resulted in a recollection from Link. As someone who's never played a Zelda game before, Link is really interesting to me. He never speaks, at least in this game, and he's a very gentle yet strong presence. People like him based on his actions, not what he says. The Fish King then gives me some armor, allowing me to zip up waterfalls to collect some electric arrows that a Lionel has been unleashing. The guide suggests while I'm up here, I should take a photo of the beast and then jump back down to the prince. From here, on top of his back, I use Cryonosis to break the blocks of ice, my armor to swim up the waterfall, and electric arrows to shut the beast down, allowing me to hop aboard. This is of course the intended way, and I don't think you can do it any other way. I don't know. I found this whole process surprisingly easy, but very fun. Now it's time for our very first Zelda dungeon. Luckily, Nintendo lays out the intended route to completing the dungeon in 34 total steps. And so I'm not going to go over the entire route, but I will say I can imagine some people giving up on this game at this point out of frustration. These puzzles are very well made, valuing satisfaction and achievement rather than being too difficult and annoying, but they are still puzzles nonetheless. Using the guide, I dashed through the dungeon as intended, leading me straight to waterblight Ganon. And then using the guide's intended strategy, I defeated him with ease. Honestly, taking my time to practice and to really travel around the world before moving on to a divine beast straight away definitely increased my satisfaction and reduced any frustration I would have at this game. Good job, Nintendo. I got Mipha's Grace, an ability to resurrect from the grave, and also one of the divine beasts targeted straight at Calamity Ganon and Hyrule Castle. There's a celebration I attend, and now it's time to help out these fish people with some side quests, including a honestly very creepy side quest where this Zora girl wants to send this letter down a river to the boy she wants to marry. I thought, well, obviously I will make sure he retrieves the letter. I had no idea it was going to be a full-grown man. And I know Zora mature physically slower, but to me, she still looks very young and she's a child by Zora's standards. So yeah, in an otherwise incredible game, this just made me feel uncomfortable. I then showed this fish a picture of the Lionel and did some diving for my buddy over here. The last quest of the region drove me south to a double rainbow and a dragon flying out of a river, to this fish person's wife all the way down here in the Lake Tower region, after she got carried away fishing. Now the guide suggests going to Gerudo to face the second divine beast. This city is interesting to me as we have to dress as a girl to enter. This is a female-only civilization, and Gerudo women have to travel for love, and when they do have kids, they very, very rarely have a boy. In this city, I talked to the Gerudo chief, and then I rode a sand seal, which was very epic to say the least. I rode the seal to this clan hideout, who wish for Link's death and Calamity Ganon's success. Here I'm instructed to burn all the hangings with a torch to secure some loot and find the clan's hideout. I'm to sneak using bananas to distract the guards, making my way to the leader of the clan, who just so happens to be incredibly easy to kill once you know his intended death. In the first phase, just shoot him with an arrow when the bowl is hovering above his head. The book recommends doing the exact same thing for the second phase. And for the third phase, it recommends using magnesis to grab the big bowl and to drop it on Master Koga's head, ending the Yiga clan's leader's life and reclaiming the Thunder Helm. With the helm secured, we witness another of Link's flashbacks, and slowly I was starting to get some more glimpses of the story behind this all as a new player to the series. The next day I rode a sand seal out to the chief as we assaulted the divine beast. This was all very scenic but incredibly easy. The beast as a dungeon itself was pretty fun, and even though the guide lays out 57 steps to beat the dungeon, I maneuvered through it fast to reach Thunderblight Ganon. The first phase of this boss was mostly about timing your parrying to beat it as intended. The second phase is actually far more interesting. The boss drops pillars and electrocutes them to try and hurt Link. The guide suggests using magnesis to use the boss's tactics against himself. This was highly satisfying. Because the boss now has an electric blade, it's also recommended to try and dodge his attacks in this third phase, which is certainly easier said than done. But once accomplished, there is a certain satisfaction that reminds me of being successful in a game like Sekiro. With Thunderblight Ganon dead, Urbosa gives us her Fury attack, a very helpful ability. Now we have two divine beasts targeting the castle. It's time to hopefully not forget my female clothes, as even after saving the village, they don't want men entering, and I need to enter to complete the rest of the shrines and side quests. Traveling the desert, racing, dying by something I hadn't learned or read about yet, and discovering another fairy and maze. I did eventually kill some Moldugas for fun using the Nintendo strategy. Drop a round bomb whilst you stand on an elevated position. As these monsters can't see, they go off vibration. Then activate the bomb in its mouth, allowing for a nice easy kill on the beast. This monster is very epic, a fish in sand. I really enjoyed carrying this block of ice without it fully melting in order to make a cold drink for this passed out Gerudo, who almost magically seems to feel better. In the Wastelands, I also had to sell my horse Murphy to complete a side quest. I had to save a party of travelers and broke into a secret club. Not to mention I exploited the worst person in this game, this runner, Bozai, who has traveled all this distance in the attempt of finding a woman who likes him. He runs around the city trying to impress a Gerudo, and because we're dressed as a woman, he speaks to us very kindly, overbearingly so. He does give us a quest and some special sand shoes as a reward. We just need to take a photo of a statue, but when returning, I forgot to don my girl outfit and he was incredibly rude and his fake exterior shone through. He really is quite an arsehole, but at least once I dressed as a girl again, I could have some fun by messing with him. I took another photo of a giant sword for him and he rewarded us with a very rare pair of snow boots. Now he's shoeless and asking us for a date. I say no before he can finish speaking as Nintendo intended. With the shrines done, I completed the rest of the side quests and was rewarded with the Thunder Helm. So next, the guide suggests the Rito Divine Beast. Although I love the Rito people and the city, this Divine Beast quest, although scenic at times, it was just very chill and I don't have much to really say except there was some kind of cool moments inside the dungeon itself. Windblight Ganon was incredibly easy and there wasn't anything too interesting that the book suggested. Just use the updrafts to go in slow motion with your arrows, and sometimes use them to quickly engage the boss. Also, Rivali was sort of weird. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with him. He does give us Rivali's flight, which is incredibly helpful though. Again, back to the guide's order, shrines, and then side quests. This included this interesting shrine quest with Kaz's children, who were exceptionally cute. I also found Rito's stable to farm some bundles of wood, and I started to level up my cuisine somewhat. Here, I helped solve a troubled relationship and killed my very first Frost Talus, leading me into the Hebrid region and making me finish all of these shrines after I completed the Panther region. This area was cold and harsh, but nonetheless beautiful and cozy. It's very isolated, which was sort of refreshing, almost like a nice getaway in the virtual world. Goron's Divine Beast is the last one we should do as intended. Helping this Goron youth up the volcano was very easy, with some great hints from the book, and the beast puzzle was pretty chill. Fireblack Ganon was easy to dodge and parry, and ice arrows bought from Tyson from Tarrytown quickly wiped him out. As a result, I was giving a Goron's protection, and that's the 4th Divine Beast completed. I told you before, the guide heavily suggests completing shrines, and Nintendo has taken us on a pretty weird journey so far. We've completely ignored about 5 or so regions up to this point, so after I finished the Elden region side quest, it was on to new lands, all as I pleased, no order to follow, until I finished every shrine and side quest and could move back onto the main quest, which Nintendo notes is finding all of Link's memories, attaining the Master Sword, defeating Calamity Ganon and all the sub-bosses, and finally experiencing all of the game's secrets. So first, for my very quick rendition of all of this, so you can look through the dragon's eyes at my own experience and journey through the game, I started with upgrading my runes, as the guide suggests this after the 4 beasts, which was easy enough. I then visited the lake tower, did many of the you-know-whats, but my favorite part of this region was definitely killing my first 2 Lionels ever. These guys are super satisfying once you get their timings down. Then, voila, I found this gigantic horse for a side quest, and I was allowed to keep it, which is awesome. Riding the horse into battle against monsters with the skills that I had developed at this stage was a whole lot of fun. I also never completed the Akala side quest, so sort of a mistake by me. I did this now, meeting Kilton for the first time and making a nice monster cake for a little girl who won't eat anything but cake. Eating the cake returns the girl's health back to normal, and thus we are rewarded. I do have a small complaint for this game here, as I do a bunch of side quests. I really feel like the side quests rewards could be far more interesting than just rupees. Because rupees are incredibly easy to gain in this game, but I guess you do get the reward of the experience and helping people out, even if that sounds cringe from this world's perspective. This game just goes on and on, full to the brim of epicness. Nintendo's way is the smart way, because it wants you to see everything, to experience everything, before ever fighting Calamity Ganon. There's so much you really don't have to do, and weirdly I enjoy this concept. The main story doesn't take you all around the world. Instead, you can choose to venture into the mysterious corners of the land yourself, becoming a true explorer of this world. And in every part of the land, there is a connection to a mechanic or armor system that we have already developed. I really enjoyed this pathway. Get all of your powers, explore, then at the end face the demon. Facing shrines that shock you and leave you without clothes, needing to harness your own survival and the developed skills of the many hours played, seeing the satisfaction converge towards the peak at the end. With mini games on the way, puzzles to be sought, treasure to be found, gold to be lost at the expense of gambling degenerates, goblins to be raided for the people, hearts to be gained, lovers to be made, stables to be saved from danger, and views of the wilderness and of beautiful castles. Towers to be climbed. Okay, I'm gonna stop that, but yeah, there's just so much content. I even finally finished Neb's quest. There's even a shrine inside the castle, and still constant tricks and tips from the guide to abuse. I really felt powerful and strong at this point of the game. It was time to enjoy. Inside the creepy lost woods, I followed the torches that led to the Korok forest, a surprisingly beautiful forest that I adored from the moment it lit up my eyes. I see the Master Sword and Hetsu, spending the rest of my seeds. I touched the sword, giving me a crazy flashback, but I did not pull the sword from the ground. Instead, I followed Nintendo's intended way, which at this point is to find every captured memory. This was a roller coaster of emotions, and for the first time, I really felt like I could understand more about Link, and especially Zelda herself. Of course, unlocking every shrine before this, except for the ones inside the Korok forest, made this so much faster and easier. What I gathered from the melancholy flashbacks is that Zelda is stressed out because she doesn't seem to have her mother's powers yet. She feels closed in, almost choking on the duty that her father is forcing onto her. That maybe, just maybe, she doesn't have to have this burden of responsibility, and she could just enjoy learning and her simple hobbies. Although Link doesn't say anything, he guards her and listens honorably. Zelda seems almost lonely, and Link is her company. He's dedicated and ruthless, and so slowly she falls in love with him. And when Calamity Ganon strikes, she feels hopeless and a failure to the world. But there's one last memory to find, and I should note, none of these but one are required to beat Calamity Ganon. So Nintendo is really pushing the intended way as finding all 13 memories and unlocking the secret ending. And thank God, because the 13th memory is so important. And I feel like if you didn't see this memory, you missed a very important aspect of the story, and well, the entire understanding of the world at its current form. Link, about to die, unlocks Zelda's powers. Love unlocked her power, but ended her love. Except he isn't quite dead. The Master Sword speaks, and Link is delivered to the Shrine of Resurrection, where for 100 years he rests and is restored by the advanced Sheikah technology, causing his amnesia. With all the memories found, I can finally grab the Master Sword and complete the last few shrines inside of Korok Forest, which are very easy to do. To show proof of all the shrines completed, I am rewarded with what I would assume is Link's apparel from the older games. This set of clothing is honestly my favorite in the entire game. Now that I have the Master Sword, I can show this girl Eliza, who's been waiting for the hero of Hyrule to visit her. She's crazy because she wants to love us, though it's a pity we just aren't her type. I also bought Evil Link clothes from Kilton by selling monster parts, and then I waited for Centauri Mount to light up to visit the mystical pond to take photos for a Korok who wants to see a bloopy. I took some more photos for those without the power of fast travel and a Sheikah slate like me, and finally visited the very top of the Great Deku Tree in the Korok Forest. Walton wants me to deliver him all sorts of items based off a riddle. This included finding some pretty rare Voltfin trout, and then the hoof of a Lionel, which was very fun and a great pleasure to retrieve for the Korok. With everything completed as Nintendo intended before facing our final dungeon and Calamity Ganon himself, I just wanted to take everything in for one last time. Now it's intended for us to basically cook up a storm before entering the castle, and so I did exactly that, using the book at times to find obscure recipes. I really enjoyed cooking in this game, and as I've mentioned several times, all the different recipes were incredibly satisfying to put together. On attacking the castle, the guides suggest flying over the river from the northern bank towards the lockup close to the docks. The reason why is because there's a Stolnox that we can kill, and Link's old shield, the best in the entire game, to recover. Now the guides suggest we go through the docks, into the library, armory, dining hall, observation room, guards chamber, corridor, Princess Zelda's room and study, and finally to glide to this waterfall and into the sanctum. However, it does note we can, if we wish, attack the castle's two Lionels easily from this position. I did so, surprising myself at how far my skills have come in this game. I was genuinely shocked every time I successfully counterattacked one of these guys. Successfully dodging or parrying a Lionel granted my brain an insane amount of dopamine. I felt like Spider-Man noticing his powers. And with them dead, I can move on to Calamity Ganon, and because we defeated all the Divine Beasts before, as intended, Calamity Ganon loses half of his health at their assist. The only somewhat interesting tip in Ganon's first phase was to shoot his summoning fireball with an ice arrow, which I accomplished easily enough. In fact, I used arrows almost entirely to take down his first phase. During the second phase, the guides continue harping on about practicing counterattacking lasers throughout the entire book, really became helpful and honestly made this fight too easy. I even finished him off with a nicely timed dodge. But of course he wasn't finished yet. However, I like to think of this part as a more cinematic finale to our journey rather than a real challenge. We simply grab the bow of light, avoid the beast's front, and shoot the light glyphs on his body until finally at the end we are suggested to get off our horse and use the temporary updraft the boss creates after using his beam of energy to glide up and get one last epic shot on the dark beast's eye. Zelda is then released from his body to finally destroy Ganon in a fittingly serene and almost gentle way. This was very epic for me. This entire journey completed in a satisfying way, and because I completed the game as intended, I got one last final cutscene after the credits as a reward. But did I say I was done with the journey? Well, this world is full of content, and of course, there's still some more the guides suggest to do. There's more locations, upgrades, and gear to be had. Oh, and of course, the many random mini-games scattered across the world that you could very easily never knew existed. For example, the guide only now mentions shield surfing to me. It even shows us a secret route to beat the shield surfing record. Some of the minigames were fun, others were simply alright, and then there was this gambling one which could have gone a lot worse for me. For me, every minigame without a horse was easy, and every minigame with a horse was pretty damn tough. With all the games explored, the guide wants us to kill every Molduga, Talus, and Hinox. This was very satisfying, but admittedly it took a while as there are only 4 Molduga, but 40 Talus, and 40 Hinox. But we must help out our weird boy Kilton here, and he will reward us with proof of our sort of insane effort to conquer the land's monsters. And finally, there were some secrets the game suggests we visit or experiment with. Like for example, in Tarrey Town there is a bloke here who you can buy lost gear off. If you hit a chicken, it has a chance of dropping an egg. But if you hit a chicken too many times, you'll be attacked by a flurry of chickens. There are shooting stars in this game, or rather fragments of stars that you can see at nighttime and collect them as a reward. If you are soaked in water, fire damage will not harm you. If your stamina bar goes red and you jump twice as far. You can take selfies in this game, striking up many different poses. If you throw a rusty weapon at a rock Octorok, when it's inhaling, it will swallow the weapon and clean the rust from its body, making it brand new. I thought this addition was especially awesome. If you give certain dogs enough food, they will show you hidden treasure. At this spring, there is a creepy horse fairy who can revive dead horses. There's a Colosseum ruin that houses strong enemies that you can kill for awesome loot. Because I already tamed the 4 divine beasts, every enemy held an elemental weapon, making this a great spot for farming. Still at this stage of the game, I was thoroughly enjoying the many vistas and unique environments. You can ride bears in this game, which is pretty cool. Hot springs heal you. There's a hidden talus inside of the castle Hyrule, which leads to a shard of a dragon's fang. And of course there is the Lord of the Mountain, who wanders on top of Centauri Mountain on a waxing crescent moon day. Nintendo wants us to sneak up on him and to ride him, which was very awesome. I ended my journey having more fun and being awed just as much as when I began. This concluded my journey playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time, and as Nintendo intended. I am now definitely a fan of the series, and my obscure experience playing this game for the first time was very fun. To me, this game is more than just a game. It really is an extraordinary piece of art, a sort of joy that many of us can place near our hearts in a world that flows without thought.